हरे कृष्ण। नमो विष्णुपदाय कृष्णप्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदांत स्वामिनिति नामिने। नमस्ते सारस्वती देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देशतारिणे। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद। हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। हरे कृष्णा. So welcome you all back to the 9th day of part 3 of this course, self-evaluation tools on the path of bhakti. So today is the penultimate day. Tomorrow we will be completing the course. So we have been discussing from this book Madhurya Kadambini for the last 20 days almost. Today is the 21st day. So we have been discussing from the 6th shower. You might be wondering how I am going to complete the course, because today is the sixth shower. Sixth shower we will complete now, and then we will try to complete the seventh shower also. Today I may go a little bit over time and complete bhava and prema. I will not discuss right now. I will discuss it when I am discussing, like the other course, Rediscovering Vaidhi Sadhana Bhakti, is going on. As a sequel to that course, there will be 3 sequels. The first sequel would be Raganuga Sadhana Bhakti, and the second sequel would be Bhava, and the third sequel would be Prema. So at that time, I will take Prema Bhakti little more elaborately. So right now, because we have already overshot the time, so tomorrow's session I'll use it for answering the questions which have come through the online portal. Whatever questions devotees have asked, I will try to answer those questions tomorrow. So that will be the last day of the course, and then we'll start a new course. So thank you very much for your patient listening all these days. So today we will try to complete Asakti and Bhava briefly, even if I am not able to go into details of Bhava. We will cover it again in the sequel to Rediscovering Vaidhi Sadhana Bhakti. Bhava will be discussed in much more detail. So for today, we will discuss the remaining part of Asakti after the quick recap, and then we will do whatever Bhava we can complete, we'll complete, and then more details on Bhava and then Prema we will see in that sequel. So Asakti, as we saw, is the seventh stage of bhakti as described by Srila Rupa Goswami, and this is the last stage of sadhana bhakti. As we saw, Shuddha bhakti can be practiced at 2 levels: Cheshta Rupa Anushilanam and Bhava Rupa Anushilanam. Cheshta Rupa Anushilanam means where cheshta or endeavor and activity are there, but there is no bhava. There are no spiritual emotions that accompany the activities of devotional service, Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu Smaranam, Pada Sevanam, like that. But at the stage of Bhava and Prema, which are categorized as Bhava Rupa Anushilanam, the activities of bhakti are accompanied by spiritual emotions. So we had a brief discussion about spiritual emotions earlier, but the point is the person feels genuinely in one of the prominent rasa, he experiences that relationship with Krishna while practicing not practicing, while performing the limbs of devotional service. But while asakti is a very exalted stage, but nevertheless still falls within the category of cheshta rupa anushilanam, because um, it has not yet entered into the realm of spiritual emotions, while the person is almost completely primed up for that entry. It's just asakti is while we are just knocking the door of bhava. That is asakti. So about this asakti, we try to understand what is this asakti. We saw yesterday that at the stage of nishta is a neutral stage where all the anarthas have been destroyed. Anartha nivritti has happened. Now with ruchi, artha pravritti starts. A positive attachment to Krishna starts, or a positive, the stage of positive attachment starts. And the stage of positive attachment happens in two stages. One is ruchi, another is asakti. At the stage of ruchi, as we saw the last few days, 2 days back, that the stage of ruchi is where the devotee gets great taste from the activities of devotional service. Whereas the stage of asakti is the stage of attachment to Krishna. So the driving force on the stage of asakti is the extreme desire to please Krishna. Not that at the stage of ruchi, the desire to please Krishna is not there. Rather, the desire to please Krishna is there even during the early stages of anartha nivritti or nishta also. But at the stage of asakti, that desire to please Krishna is overwhelming and there is no other consideration. So, in that sense, asakti is differentiated from ruchi and the other previous stages. So, the stage of asakti is indicated here by Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur to be the stage, the budding stage, where the buds have appeared, these buds will open into fully blossomed flowers at the stage of bhava and they will become fruits at the stage of prema. So, and it is mentioned that this asakti polishes the mirror of the heart to such a condition that at any moment a reflection of the Lord may suddenly be visible there. So, that is the stage of bhava. At the stage of bhava, the Lord makes his appearance there within the heart of the devotee. And also we saw that till the stage of nishta, at the stage of asakti, at the stage of anartha nivritti or before nishta, when we are practicing anishtita bhajana kriya, the mind is almost always dwelling on material subject matters. We have to literally pull the mind away and fix it on Krishna. But at the stage of nishta, the mind, while meditating on the Supreme Lord, suddenly goes towards material subject matters. So then one has to pull it back and fix it on the Supreme Lord. But still, for most part of time, at the stage of nishta, the mind is able to meditate on the Supreme Lord, His name, His form, His glories, His pastimes and all that. But at the stage of asakti, even when a person starts discussing if some other person comes and discusses some material things, even in those material things, suddenly he starts spontaneously thinking of Krishna. So he is getting into the realm of spontaneity. Even though that achieves perfection at the stages of bhava and prema, but the person is becoming quite spontaneous. Even in looking at material things, as we saw yesterday, the example of Ramananda Rai. Stavara jangama deki na deki taramurti, sarvatra hoy nija ishtadeva spurti. So even in seeing animate and inanimate objects is giving him an inspiration to think of Krishna. So that is the stage of asakti. So then we saw the various stages, how these stages are described in even Bhagavad Gita. Mayyeva mana adatsva mayi buddhim niveshaya nivashishyasi mayyeva ata urdhvam na samshayah. We saw about the smaranatmika bhakti, where the mind is naturally running towards the lotus feet of Krishna. which is the stage of bhava. But sometimes there may be some obstacles in that spontaneity, little obstacles, which can be rectified by engaging one's intelligence in the Shastras and then bring it back. And it is almost spontaneous. That is more or less like the stage of Ruchi Asakti, like that. This is called as Mananatmika Bhakti. Then Krishna says, okay, if you cannot spontaneously fix your mind on me, he says, then practice fixing your mind on me. Atachittam samadhatum na shaknosi mai sthiram abhyasa yogena tato mam ichchaptum dhananjaya. Krishna tells Arjuna, Atachittam samadhatum na shaknosi mai sthiram. If you cannot firmly fix your mind on Krishna, if it sometimes slips away and goes towards material objects, then whenever it goes, bring it back, fix it, practice it. This is called as Abhyasa Rupa Bhakti. This is more or less at the stage of Nishtha, where the mind only sometimes slips away. But if you see the next stage, if someone is not even able to bring his mind all the time, because the mind is all the time sitting in material sense objects only, then he says, stop working on the mind and start working on your senses, he says. Abhyase api asamartosi matkarma paramo bhavan madartam api karmani kurvan siddhim avapsasi. In that sense, Krishna says, then see if your senses are constantly engaged in Krishna's service. If your senses are constantly engaged in Krishna's service, then you can later think about working on your mind. But if the senses themselves are only sporadically engaged in Krishna's service, then forget about fixing the mind on Krishna. It is not possible. Because we have had a relationship with the material world since time immemorial, and all our current taste and interest is all with matter only. So all that matter needs is little bit of engagement in the sense objects during the day, and the rest of the day the mind will keep meditating on that. So therefore the real problem for a sadhaka is not putting his heart into the sadhana. The real problem for a sadhaka is not mechanical chanting, mechanical hearing. The real problem for a sadhaka actually is spontaneous sense gratification and ample opportunity for the senses to engage in sense gratification. So during the day, if the senses get big chunks of pockets where they can engage in sense gratificatory activities, then the mind will naturally go and sit on those things only. So therefore, the real struggle is how we are going to schedule our day in such a way that our senses get constant engagement in either direct Krishna conscious activities or our duties. Like we might have to, if we are a student, we will have to study for our exams, we will have to do our homework, we will have to do our classwork. This is all Krishna conscious activity only. Because ultimately, by being a very good student, we want to please Krishna. We want to attract other people towards Krishna. Or if one is a householder trying to take care of his household duties, that is also a Krishna conscious activity only. So basically the senses should have constant engagement either in a direct Krishna conscious activity like hearing or chanting or deity worship, or if a housewife is taking care of her household chores, it is part of deity worship only. It is called as paricharya. Doing some menial work or menial activity for pleasing the Lord, because if the householder has deities at home, then the house belongs to the Supreme Lord, and taking care of the household chores is taking care of Krishna's home. So cleaning the house then becomes actually Gundicha Marjanam. So in that way, there must be engagement, constant engagement, 24 hours engagement for our senses in Krishna conscious activities. Then slowly one can think about, then the mind will naturally get engaged in Krishna. Then we come to the stage of Nishta. Then we can think of Asakti and Bhava, where the mind spontaneously flows towards the lotus feet of Krishna. So these stages are indicated by Krishna also in Bhagavad Gita. So this is what we saw yesterday. Then today we were going to start discussing about the symptoms of a person at the stage of Asakti. So again, just like the previous chapter, in this chapter it is written in a very poetic way. We can hear and appreciate, but we have to understand that these are like very exalted stages. But we should not think that these are unattainable stages for a sincere sadhaka. A sincere sadhaka over a period of time will definitely go through these stages. So this we can just hear and understand that one day I will also be in this category if I am sincerely practicing. Right now we need not try to imitate these stages. We cannot even imitate these stages. But one day we can understand that we will also be in this. We will also be passing through these stages. So let's see the symptoms of a person at the stage of Asakti. Early in the morning, seeing another devotee, he will begin talking. Where are you coming from? You have a Shalagram Shila in a nice case hanging from your neck. So in the traditional Vedic age, Vaishnavas used to wear Shalagram Shila even on their neck. Even today, some devotees wear either a Govardhan Shila or a Shaligram Shila on their neck. So he says, your tongue is quivering every moment from tasting the nectar of Krishna's name as you chant softly. He's telling, oh, your tongue is constantly chanting the holy name. Seeing you like this, I feel overwhelming joy. This is a very important symptom of asakti, because as in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu you would have seen that one of the symptoms of bhakti is Shri Krishna Akarshini. Shri Krishna Akarshini means the more one progresses in bhakti, the more one has the capacity to attract both Krishna and his devotees. And the more he also gets attracted to Krishna and his devotees. So the person at the stage of asakti, when he sees another devotee chanting and dressed in a Vaishnava attire, he gets very much attracted to such a person. And he is telling, I am feeling overwhelming joy seeing you. Tell me what holy places you have visited and describe all the great saintly souls that you have met. So tell me about them. What places did you visit? What saintly, who are the saintly souls that you visited? What realizations have you had? And what realizations have you bestowed to others? Please share all about that. So, just like when two friends meet, they ask, how are you doing and what's happening, and how are you doing with your job and all that. But the person in asakti does not feel like asking such questions. He directly goes, are you coming from a dham? Which dham are you coming from? Tell me about that dham. Tell me about those saintly people who live there. What have you heard from them? What are your realizations? Like that. So he wants to hear. In this way, he will spend some time drinking nectar in intimate conversation with another devotee. Parasparanu katanam pavanam bhagavadyashah. So, at Parasparanu katanam, as soon as he sees another devotee, he wants to discuss Krishna Katha. Elsewhere, seeing a devotee with an attractive book under his arm, he will say. So then he sees a devotee who is walking with an attractive book, and he knows that it must be some Vaishnava literature. He says, he would approach that person and he would say, by your extraordinary presence, I can guess that you are very learned. Please recite it for me. What have you read in this book? Please recite it for me. Bring to life by your shower of nectarian explanation just one verse of the 10th canto, which is like a Chataki bird waiting for raindrops. So he is just like a Chataka bird waiting for the raindrops to fall. Is one verse, can you please, before you leave, can you explain just one verse from the 10th canto? You seem to be very learned. So please shower your nectar of explanation of that particular verse. Not only does he want to hear, but hearing that explanation, his bodily hairs will stand on end, which means he is entering into the realm of bhava. Ashtasatvika vikaras are starting to manifest in him. Then going elsewhere, he will say, oh, just today my life will be successful, for this gathering of devotees will immediately destroy all my sins. So then, walking after some time, he sees that there is a gathering of devotees. They have gathered together for some Krishna Katha. And he feels so joyful. And he says, today my life is successful. Thinking in this way, he will offer repeated obeisances. So which means he is not going there for enjoyment. Of course, it's very enjoyable for him. Association of devotees is enjoyable. But he is not going in the mood of enjoyment. He is going there in the mood of receiving. Therefore, yes, immense gratitude. Therefore, he is offering repeated obeisances, expressing his gratitude. Even though he has not received anything from there, but just by seeing the Vaishnavas, he feels so grateful that he is offering repeated obeisances. Being honored with affection by the most learned and advanced devotee, the crown jewel of the assembly, he will sit before him in humble crouched posture and beg from him with tears in his eyes while holding his pulse. So, as soon as the assembly of Vaishnavas see such an exalted Vaishnava has come, they will receive him with great honor, love and affection. Then, identifying the speaker who is going to speak the katha, he will go and sit in front of him in such a humble posture and beg from him. Oh Master, you are the remedy for the material disease afflicting the three worlds. I am the most fallen and depraved person. Please diagnose my malady and advise me what medicine and food to take. Of course, he is expecting for only one medicine. He is a very advanced soul. Out of his natural humility, mana shunyata, he is speaking in this way. But he knows that the only malady is lack of Krishna consciousness. And the only solution is Krishna consciousness. Rest is all redundant. The bodily ailments affect us because there is lack of Krishna consciousness. If we are conscious of Krishna, then we will not be conscious of body. If we are not conscious of body, the ailments of our body will not affect us. So it is lack of absorption which is the cause of our suffering. That is why King Kulashekar in his Mukundamala Stotra, he says, Idam shariram parinama peshalam padatyavashyam shatash sandhi jarjaram kimaushadam prichasi mooda durmate niramayam Krishna rasayanam piba. So here King Kulashekar is instructing his mind. Idam shariram parinama peshalam. This body is bound to change at every moment. Don't you know, my dear mind? Do you think that this body will remain like this forever? Patatyavashyam, it will certainly fall down one day. And before that, Shata Sandhi Jarjaram, and all the joints will be so painful, it will be so decrepit due to diseases like arthritis and other such diseases. Kimaushadam pruchasi, Muda Durmate. What kind of medicine are you expecting, you foolish mind? Niramayam Krishna Rasayanam Piba. There is one medicine, prophylactic medicine, means one solution for all diseases. Like in medical terms, they call it broad spectrum antibiotic. So, the only broad spectrum antibiotic for the whole Adhyatmik, Adibhautik, Adidaivik kleshas is Krishna Rasayanam. Absorption in Krishna Katha, absorption in Krishna Nam, absorption in Krishna Leela. This absorption will completely evaporate our focus on the body. Not that the body will stop aging, not that the body will stop from getting diseased. That is the nature of body. That will happen. But if our absorption is elsewhere, then it will not affect us. So therefore, King Kulashekar is very intelligent. So he says, Niramayam Krishna Rasayanam Piba. So one may say, will my disease get cured by drinking this Krishna Rasayan? He says, no. Your disease will not get cured, but it will not affect you. So that's what he is telling. This person goes, please diagnose what is my disease and give me an appropriate medicine. By that miracle drug, restore me to proper health. So he is not talking about physical health, he is talking about spiritual health. Due to his natural humility, he thinks that I am spiritually very weak and I need some immunity booster. So give me some broad spectrum antibiotic, he is asking for, by which I can become healthy, I can become immune. Overjoyed with the devotee's glance of mercy and his trickling nectar of sweet words, he will stay for some time to serve his lotus feet. See, this is the natural nature of a devotee. So in today's day and age, with ample availability of opportunity to hear, we as devotees, especially this YouTube and all these things, you can hear from anywhere, sitting anywhere. You can hear lying down, you can you can hear while jogging, you can hear while exercising, you can hear while cooking. It's very good. But with this ample, easy availability of the opportunity to hear, we sort of tend to feel that hearing is my birthright. Nobody can stop me from hearing. So, which is right. Hearing is our birthright, but when we get an opportunity to hear, we should gratefully accept it. And this person, not only does he hear, he hears with rapt attention, he hears with gratitude, and that gratitude manifests in the form of some practical service. After hearing, he does not just leave. Oh, acha katha tha, it was good. Maja aaya. I had a very wonderful time hearing this katha. Good, it was nice. And then he will get up and go away. Because he values what he has received, he feels extremely grateful and he stays back to serve that person. Sometimes, wandering by a lake or in the forest, observing the movements of the animals and birds, he will intuitively interpret them as signs of mercy or punishment of Krishna upon himself. So he is slowly entering into the realm which is very difficult to understand actually. Sometimes we do this out of our crazy mind. Sometimes we, I mean, I don't know about others, but I do that, if I reach from this place to that place in 10 steps, then I will consider that if I am going for writing an exam, let's say, then sometimes while you are a child, you think, if I can go from this place to this place in 10 steps, then it means I will write the exam very well. So if it takes me more than 10 steps, then my exam will be a flop show. So like that you think. But this is complete irrational thinking, because reaching a particular place in 10 steps or 20 steps has nothing to do with your exam. It all depends on how well you have prepared for writing your exam. So here this person starts thinking in a slightly irrational way, but that irrational thought process is a product of love. That is why, and it's going to become more and more irrational when it goes from asakti to bhava to prema. It's going to become more and more irrational. So therefore, it is mentioned, Vaishnavera kriya mudra vigyehana bhujaya. One should not try to understand the activities of a Vaishnava using our material understanding, or even understanding based on Bhakti Shastras. What to speak of a Vaidhi Sadhaka, even a Raganuga Sadhaka, who is supposed to follow in the footsteps of the Vrajavasis, there is a caution given by the Acharyas. Jiva Goswami says in his commentary to Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, he says that even a Raganuga Sadhaka cannot follow all the activities which are performed by the Vrajavasis. For example, the Vrajavasis never accepted a guru. So the Raganuga Sadhaka cannot think, oh, I am trying to follow the Vrajavasis, so I should also not accept a guru. No. And another thing he says is the Vrajavasis never followed Ekadashi Vrata. So the Raganuga Sadhaka may think, oh, I am supposed to follow the Vrajavasis, so I will also not honor Ekadashi Vrata. That is also wrong. Or the gopis worship Katyayani Devi for getting Krishna. So I will also start worshipping the demigods. No. Their worshipping of Katyayani Devi is a natural byproduct of love. So when one becomes literally mad in love, then that person loses all sense of discrimination. So therefore one cannot, and such person's activity may actually defy common logic, and such a person's activities may defy even devotional logic. But one should not even try to apply our ordinary Vaidhi sadhana devotional logic to understand a person who has reached the stage of asakti, bhava or prema. Very exalted stages. Therefore, these are all natural byproducts of love. So one should not try to judge them based on our Vaidhi sadhana logic. So therefore, what we are going to read now may be a little bewildering, but one should understand that this is a realm which I cannot understand through my logic. So we should not apply our logic to try to understand these stages. So he is thinking, he is observing some animals and birds, and he will think, oh, if this animal does like this, then Krishna will show me mercy. As if the animal has some, telepathic connection with Krishna, like that. And as if he has some telepathic connection with the animal. So he says, if Krishna is showing his mercy to me, then let the antelope in the distance come towards me 3 or 4 steps. So he's thinking, if that antelope is like a deer which has a, you know, long horns, and he thinks that if that antelope comes towards me 3 or 4 steps, then Krishna is going to show me mercy. If it goes away, then I will not get Krishna's mercy. Like that he is thinking. So, and then he will see a small boy playing on the outskirts of a village. And then, seeing that boy, he will get reminded of the 4 Kumaras. And he will look at the boy and he will ask, will I see Vrajendra Kumar? Will I see Krishna? And the boy will say, no. What will the boy will answer? What? He does not know who is Vrajendra Kumar. He will say either yes or no. He says no. So as soon as he hears no, he will deliberate on whether to take the answer on face value or seek a deeper meaning. So he will sit at that place only and he will start thinking, no means literally I will not see Krishna? Or is it that behind that no there is a deeper meaning? Oh, I need to understand this concept very clearly. Like that he starts thinking in those lines. So we might wonder, what's wrong with him? This is just a small boy. What does he know about Vrajendra Kumar? That's why we should not evaluate such people using our mundane logic, or even Vaidhi Bhakti logic will not apply to such people because they are very exalted souls. Remaining in his house like a miserly merchant, greedy for treasure, with a worn face, he will be absorbed in thought all day while dreaming, standing and sitting. He can't stop thinking of Krishna. Just like the gopis were doing some Ashtanga yoga to forget Krishna. How can we forget Krishna? Does anyone have some solution? Let me check YouTube. If there is a video someone is sharing about how can I forget Krishna. So they can't forget Krishna. So similarly, this person is like sitting at his house thinking all throughout the day about Krishna. Where am I going? What am I doing? By what means will I get my hands on my desired object? Krishna. How can I get Krishna? How can I get Krishna? Like that. He is constantly absorbed in that thought. As it is mentioned about the 6 Goswamis. He Radhe Vrajadevike Chalalite He Nanda Suno Kuta Shri Govardhana Kalpapada Patale Kalindi Vane Kuta Goshantaviti Sarvato Vrajapure Kedair Mahavihvalau Vande Rupa Sanatanau Raghuyugau Shri Jiva Gopalakau. So they are constantly chanting and searching for Krishna. He Radhe Vrajadevike Chalalite He Nanda Suno Kuta. Where are you? Hey Nandasunu, where are you? Hey Radharani, where are you? Shri Govardhana Kalpapada Patale, Kalindi Vane Kuta. Where are the forests of Vrindavan? Where is Govardhan? Where are the Kalpatarus? And where are the Kalpatarus of Vrindavan? In this way, they are feeling constant separation from Krishna, just like this person at the stage of Asakti. When asked, what is the matter? What's wrong with you? When someone asks him, he will sometimes act like a mute person. Just like, while someone is speaking, and you want to do your own job, then you just mute. So he is like a mute person. He will not speak. He will not answer, just like Jadabharat. Or at other times, he will feign normality. He will say, oh no, everything is all right. Just I have some, I didn't have good sleep last night. Like that, he will just evade that question. At this point of time, his friends will apologize. So they will say, oh, please don't feel bad. He was all right before. But now his intelligence has become covered. Don't know what has possessed him. They think that maybe some ghost has possessed him or something like that. His unacquainted neighbors will conclude that he is an idiot by birth. The neighbors who don't know him quite well, they'll think, oh, he must be a born idiot. Like that they will think. The followers of Vedic ritual will consider him stupid. Those who are properly following the Vedic rituals, the ritualistic part, they'll think, oh, he's just such a stupid person. Why can't he do something useful? Like that. The adherents of the impersonal Brahman will consider him disillusioned. Those who are the Mayavadis or Brahmavadis, they will think, oh, he is a disillusioned person. The followers of pious activities will say he is fallen. Oh, he's not doing any of his Varnashram duties. Fallen person, like that they will say. The non-devotees will say he has amassed some great treasure. So the non-devotees will say, oh, he is acting strangely because he has hidden some treasure somewhere and he just wants to divert the attention of others from that treasure. That's why he is acting in this way. And the offenders will say he is just pretending. इसमें कुछ नहीं है. He has no real thing. He's just pretending to attract some attention. That's all. In this way, others will judge him. But what is the response to these judgments? The devotee, far from considerations of respect and disrespect. So, mana apamanayo tulya. Tulya mana apamanayo. That is the nature of a pure devotee. Man, when respect comes or when disrespect comes, when honor comes or dishonor comes, he is equipoised. Far from considerations of respect and disrespect, having fallen into the current of the great celestial river of attachment, asakti, will simply continue his attempts to come closer to the Lord. He will not bother. He will simply continue in his attempts to come closer to the Lord. He has no time for all these things. So in this way, the symptoms of a person at the stage of asakti is described in this sixth wave or the sixth shower of nectar, which is talking about this stage of asakti. So now we have less time left, so we will directly move on to the seventh shower of nectar, which is describing about bhava. And what is bhava? So now we have entered into the realm of bhava rupa anushilanam. So bhava rupa anushilanam means where we enter into the realm of spiritual emotions. Material emotions are a product of the three modes. So lamentation is mainly triggered by mode of ignorance. The emotion of competing with others is mainly triggered by the mode of passion, like that. So any material emotion that we experience in this material world is a product of the three modes. But the spiritual emotions are a product of Samvit, Sandhini and Hladini potency. They are not product of the three modes. So at the stage of bhava and prema are the subsequent stages. The emotions are experienced by such devotees, but they are not a product of the three modes, but they are a product of the Samvit, Sandhini and Hladini potency. And these three are part of Krishna's spiritual energy and not material energy. So, Srila Rupa Goswami defines the stage of bhava in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. Shuddha Sattva Visheshatma Prema Suryamshu Samya Bhak Ruchibhischittam Asranya Kridasau Bhava Uchyate. So he says, Asau Bhava Uchyate. That part of bhakti is called as bhava. And what is that bhava? Shuddha Sattva Vishesha Atma. Atma means whose very essence, is Shuddha Sattva Vishesha. Shuddha Sattva Vishesha means Samvit and Hladini Shakti. So Samvit means knowledge potency. Where one understands about Krishna and one understands his own relationship with Krishna. That is Samvit potency. And Hladini potency is the bliss potency. So it's not sufficient just to know a person, but when one engages in that relationship with that person, one experiences a kind of joy of that relationship, a sense of fulfillment, a sense of joy. And that sense of joy and fulfillment is the product of the Hladini Shakti. So now one may say, where is the third potency, the Sandhini potency? So Sandhini potency is, it provides the space for the appearance of Radha and Krishna. So the heart which has been cleansed by the process of sadhana bhakti, that acts as the Sandhini, the place. Sattvam Vishuddham Vasudeva Shabditam Yadiyate Tatra Puman Apavritah Satvecha Tasmin Bhagavan Vasudevo Yadokshajo Me Manasa Vidiyate. So it is mentioned in the section on Daksha. This verse comes, the fourth canto. Sattvam Vishuddham Vasudeva Shabditam Yadiyate Tatra Puman Apavritah. So the heart which has been completely cleansed of all anarthas by the practice of sadhana bhakti is called as Sattvam Vishuddham. And it is called as Vasudeva. Just as Krishna appears as the son of Vasudeva, that heart which has been completely cleansed by the practice of bhakti is also called as Vasudeva, because Krishna is going to appear there. Yadiyate tatra puman apavritah. The Supreme Lord will appear there without any covering. There is no curtain covering that Lord. He will appear so that the devotee can see him, worship him, converse with him, act in a particular relationship with him, and experience the joy of that relationship. So once that heart is ready, clean, then Krishna appears in the form of his Samvit potency and Radharani appears in the form of his Hladini potency. So that heart for the appearance of Krishna is prepared by Balramji, who is the presiding deity of the Sandhini potency. So Sandhini, Samvit and Hladini. So Sandhini, the Balramji is the presiding deity. Samvit, Krishna is the presiding deity, and Hladini, Radharani is the presiding deity. So the nature of bhava is Shuddha Sattva Visheshatma. The essence is Samvit and Hladini Shakti. Prema Surya Amshu Samya Bhag. And it is mentioned that this bhava is like one ray of prema. If prema is compared to a sun, and bhava is just one ray of that sun, how many rays that sun have? And if bhava, which is just one ray of the sun of prema, is so potent, so powerful, then how much more powerful would be prema? That's why it is mentioned the bliss at the stage of prema is Sandrananda Visheshatma. Very extremely condensed bliss. And what is the nature of this bhava? Chitta Masranya Krid. It will completely soften the heart. It will make the heart very soft like butter, so that Krishna can steal that heart. And how is the heart becoming very soft? What is the reason for the heart becoming soft? Ruchi bihi. Ruchi is the cause. What is this ruchi? The desire to meet Krishna, the desire to serve Krishna, the desire to exchange some loving dealings with Krishna. So these desires actually make the heart very soft and pliable and moldable. Just like when we have when we are overwhelmed by a desire to meet our loved one, meet our parents, meet our friend whom we love a lot. So then that desire to meet, that longing to meet that person, the longing to serve that person, the intense hankering for nourishing ourselves with some loving exchanges with that person makes our heart completely soft and pliable towards that person. Whatever he says, we will do. Similarly, when such emotions are developed towards Krishna, our heart becomes soft and pliable like butter. And that is the effect of this bhava. Shuddha sattva visheshatma prema suryamshu samyabha ruchibis chitta masaranya kridasau bhava uchyate. But these emotions are spiritual and they are a product of Krishna's Samvit Sandhini and Hladini potency. They come together to create those spiritual emotions. So then, Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti says, when asakti achieves full maturity, it is called as rati or bhava. Bhava is the preliminary stage of manifestation of the three energies, Satchidananda. Sat is Sandhini, Chit is Samvit, and Ananda is Hladini potency, emanating from the Lord Himself. It is called the blossoming flower on the creeper of bhakti. As we saw, the stage of asakti was the budding stage, bhava is the flowering stage, and prema is the fruit, whose outer luster is the quality of sarvair sudurlabha, and whose inner luster is moksha lagutakrit. Just so as we saw in the course on rediscovering Vaidhi Sadhana Bhakti also, the 6 benefits of practicing Uttama Bhakti, it is mentioned that Kleshagni and Shubhada start manifesting at the stage of Sadhana Bhakti only, but then 2 qualities start manifesting at the stage of Bhava. They are Sudurlabha, its extreme rarity, and Moksha Lagutakrit. The bliss that one experiences at the stage of Bhava is so exquisite and condensed that the bliss of liberation seems extremely insignificant in the presence of that Bhava. Moreover, by the profuse release of its fragrances, the flower of Bhava is able to invite Madhusudan and make him appear there. Just like flowers have madhu or honey, the bhava is compared to that flower. So Krishna is attracted to that flower. Madhusudan, it is attracted to that madhu-filled flower of bhava. In short, scented by those fragrances, all the emotions of the heart, like a cluster of sesame seeds, liquefy into a perfumed oil and become immediately fit to be smeared on all the limbs of the Lord. This is a very poetic description. He says that the emotions in the heart of that person are like sesame seeds. Sesame seeds means till. So when you crush it, you get sesame oil or til ka tel. Generally, the til ka tel, it has a very mild fragrance, so it is used generally as the base for making other fragrant oils, like rose or chandan and many such, mogra, like that. So he says that the heart becomes like sesame, the emotions in the heart of such a devotee are like sesame seeds which get crushed and it liquefies into a perfumed oil because of those various emotions are compared to the perfume, and it becomes a scented oil, and that scented oil can be applied to the body of Krishna like that. At the appearance of bhava, its receptacle, the body of even a Chandala becomes worthy of respect that is due to Lord Brahma and other devatas. When even a Chandala develops that, comes to that stage of bhava, even such a person's body is fit to be offered respects equal to Brahmaji or other devatas. Such is the exalted stature of a person who has reached the stage of bhava. And further, the Tantra Shastras also say, Premnastu pratamavastha bhava iti abhidiyate. The pratama avastha or the preliminary stage of prema is called as bhava. Bhava iti abhidiyate. Satvika swalpa matrasyur atra ashru pulakadayah. And as we saw in the beginning of rediscovering Vaidhi Sadhana Bhakti, the sattvika bhavas. The sattvika bhavas are spontaneous, involuntary bodily response to a very strong emotion, like tears flowing from eyes, voice getting choked up, hair standing on end. So these are called as sattvika vikaras or sattvika bhavas. The sattvika bhavas start manifesting in a small way. Some sattvika bhavas and in low intensity are manifested at the stage of bhava also. Sattvika swalpa matrasyu. And that is very, uh, in quality and in quantity, there is, the sattvika bhavas in a limited way they start appearing in the body of a bhava bhakta. And at the stage of prema, it is fully manifest in that person. So, what are the symptoms of bhava? We saw symptoms of ruchi, we saw symptoms of asakti. Now, what are the symptoms of bhava? So, he says, at that time, his eyes full of longing turned towards Krishna to lick the blackness of his limbs, the rosy hue of his lips and eye rims, the white brilliance of his moonlike teeth shining in his smiling face, the yellow hue of his clothing and ornaments, and begin to bathe his body in unlimited tears. So, every limb of the body wants to experience the object of that particular sense, which is Krishna. The eyes fully want to drink that nectar. Netrai pibanto nayanabhiramam, it is mentioned. So they want to, such devotees want to drink through their eyes the nectar of Krishna's beauty. And the ears want to drink the nectar of Krishna's words. So every limb wants to drink like that. Like a hunted animal here and there, from time to time, freezing his motion, he raises his ears to try to hear the sound of Krishna's flute, the jingling of his anklets, the sweet intonation of his voice, the messages of his wandering footsteps. So his ears are busy trying to search for that sound of his flute, the jingling of his ankle bells while he is walking. And what is the message that his footsteps are giving to me? Like that, his ears are busy trying to relish the blissful sounds emanating from Krishna's mouth or feet or his ankle bells. And his body erupts in ecstasy on experiencing the longed for touch of the Lord's tender hands. Why should the skin be quiet? The skin is also longing. So every limb of his body becomes an independent personality, longing for, wanting to independently enjoy Krishna. Not enjoy Krishna, but enjoy by giving pleasure to Krishna. So for a devotee, his enjoyment is in giving pleasure to Krishna. So his skin has become an independent personality, wanting to experience that touch of Krishna. And why should his nostrils remain silent? his nostrils open wide again and again and inhale, anxious to examine the fragrance of Krishna's body. Why should the tongue remain quiet? Hankering to taste the Lord's saliva, his tongue feels great joy on attaining the taste and he licks his lips. Sometimes, when he gains the association of the Lord, as we saw at the stage of bhava, there is sporadic association with the Supreme Lord. It is not constant. It becomes constant at the stage of prema. So sometimes when he gains the association of the Lord by the Lord's whim, which means when the Lord decides, his heart feels exhilarated, means ecstatic, and he becomes drunk with the abundance of sweetness. And then at the departure of the Lord, he grieves and becomes despondent. Like we see in the example of Narada Muni in the first canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. As the Lord says, Sakridyat darshitam rupam. Once I have shown this form to you, O Narada, just to increase your hankering to attain me. Avipakva kashayanam durdarshoham kuyoginam. He says, my dear Narada, to get constant association of me is not possible for a person whose devotional service has not completely matured and he has some trace amounts of impurities in his heart. Like we saw at the stage of bhava, there may be some trace amount of impurities caused due to some very severe offense that may have been committed, in the early stages of devotional service. So therefore, he says, but don't worry, I gave you this one darshan because after seeing this one darshan of me, you will not have the desire to have darshan of anything else in this world. And your hankering to have that darshan will become so intense that by the fire of that intensity of longing to see me, that fire will burn away all your remaining impurities and you will get constant association of me at the stage of prema. So this is what the Lord tells Narada Muni in the first canto. So he says that, so sometimes when the Lord comes, he experiences extreme bliss. And when the Lord leaves, he feels great grief and he becomes despondent. In this way, the symptoms of Sanchari Bhava decorate his body. So Sanchari Bhavas are transient emotions, as we saw in the beginning of rediscovering Vaidhi Sadhana Bhakti. So like if a mother is crossing a road with a child, and let's say if the child suddenly starts slipping away from the hands, from the grips of the mother, and he wants to cross the road by himself, he wants to run. But with traffic coming on both sides, is extremely risky for the child. So suddenly the mother may become angry on the child and slap the child. But that anger and that act of slapping the child is born from intense love for the child and, with a desire to protect that child from the imminent danger. So, it is one example of a Sanchari Bhav. Sanchari means transient, it comes and it goes. But as soon as the mother and child safely cross the road, the mother immediately embraces the child, kisses the child, pacifies the child, gets him a chocolate. But at that moment, she experienced that Sanchari Bhav of wanting to slap that child. That anger is a byproduct of love. So, such transient emotions also enhances the depth of that relationship. Seemingly unfavorable emotions but born out of love, like anger, and sometimes there is competition, like sometimes it is mentioned in Ramayana that Lord Ram and Mother Sita would have swimming competition. Who will, swim past the Sarayu fast, like that? Or I'm not sure if it was Sarayu, but one of the rivers wherever they were, probably in Dandakaranya forest. So, so this competitive mode, when it is a byproduct of love at the stage of bhava or prema, is called as sanchari bhavas. These are also transient. It's not that throughout the life Lord Ram and Mother Sita are competing with each other. Who will do better? Who will do better? Who will do better? Like that. It is just a transient emotion. It comes, enhances that love, and it goes away. Like that. His intelligence in the state of wakefulness, sleep, and deep sleep determines to fix itself without deviation on the path of remembrance of Krishna. Like the ordinary living entities have three stages: Jagrati, Swapna, and Shushupti. Jagrati means awakened stage, and Swapna means dreamy state, and Shushupti means the state of deep sleep. In all the three states, the living entity is conscious. In the Jagrati and Swapna state, he is conscious of his own sense gratification, and in Shushupti state, he is not conscious of anything. But as soon as he gets up, he becomes immediately conscious of his sense gratification. Whereas at the stage of bhava, in all these three states of wakefulness, dreamy, and deep sleep, the person at the stage of bhava cannot think of anything else but Krishna. He is helplessly thinking only of Krishna without deviation. At the time of attaining a spiritual body suitable for performing his eternal service, the indestructible soul enters that body, and the material body becomes almost lifeless. So this is also described in the episode of Narada Muni. When he attains prema and he becomes ready to get a spiritual body, the description that is given is Tadit Saudamani Yata. Just like the lightning and the experience of that light from that lightning happens almost simultaneously. You can't tell which came first, which came later. So in the same way, when the person giving up this material body and achieving the spiritual body happen almost simultaneously. At this stage, the devotee begins to experience extreme possessiveness of Krishna. The Bhakti Rasam Sindhu calls it as Atishaya Mamatva. Mamatva means possessiveness. Atishaya means an extraordinary level of possessiveness. Krishna is mine in this way. Like a bee, he becomes anxious to imbibe the fragrance of Krishna's lotus feet. So he says, having obtained the most precious jewel of bhava, the devotee, like a miser, hides it from ordinary people. He does not have a public exhibition. Come, now I will show you how I will cry for Krishna. And you see, my hairs will stand on end. Such tears will flow. I will get choked up. Now you better understand what kind of an advanced devotee I am. No. A person, as soon as he reaches that stage, he tries as much as possible to hide it from ordinary people. Because what he has received is not just some cheap adoration. If there is desire for cheap adoration, how can one reach even Nishta actually, for that matter? What is Bhava is very exalted. Even at the stage of Nishta, there is no hankering for cheap adoration, wanting to impress others. As he becomes the residence of renunciation, tolerance, and the other wonderful qualities which manifest themselves at the stage of bhava, advanced devotees will understand his internal status by those external symptoms, but others who see his distracted mind will conclude that he is mad. So he will start manifesting the reliable symptoms of bhava. The reliable symptoms of bhava are mentioned in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. क्षान्तिरव्यर्थकालत्वं विरक्तिर्मानशून्यता आशाबन्धः समुत्कण्ठा नामगाने सदा रुचिः आसक्तिस्तद्गुणाख्याने प्रीतिस्तद्वसतिस्थले इत्यादयोनुभावस्योर्जातभावाङ्कुरे जने. So Srila Rupa Goswami says, the characteristics of a person who has developed bhava are as follows. There are 9 characteristics. So, 8 characteristics. So he says, Kshanti. Kshanti means tolerance. Where there is love, there is tolerance. Avyartha kalatvam, not wasting time. In fact, he feels there is not enough time for engagement in Krishna consciousness. What to speak of wasting time? Virakti, detachment from enjoyment. Mana shunyata, pridelessness. So these 8 qualities, if you see, these are the reliable symptoms. Otherwise, one can cry for Krishna, one may cry, one's bodily hairs may stand on end, or one's voice can get choked up. But these kinds of Ashtasattvika vikaras can manifest, or at least some of them can manifest even in mundane emotions. Like we all have an experience. Like, sometimes we may even cry after watching a movie, some very touching scene. Finally, after great struggle, the hero and heroine unite. And literally the whole theater is crying. Tears of joy. Or sometimes during the climax of that scene, it may be so intense that the hairs on our body may stand on end. So we all have experienced these emotions. But these are not reliable symptoms of bhava. The reliable symptoms of bhava are these internal symptoms: tolerance, not wasting time, virakti, mana shunyata, pridelessness, asha bandha, confidence in Lord's mercy, tattenu kampam susamikshamano, bunjana eva atmakritam vipakam, hridvag vapurbir vidadan namaste, jivetayo mukti pade sadayabak. In this way, he has total confidence and trust in Krishna's mercy. I will get Krishna's mercy. Samutkanta, extreme longing for the Lord. Namagane sada ruchi, taste for chanting the name of the Lord. I think there is some problem with the numbering. It is actually 9 qualities. There was a problem with the numbering, so it has become 8. So actually, this must be 5, 6 and 7 and not 4, 5, 6. Then, Asaktistad Gunakyani. He has great attachment to discussing about the topics of the Lord or the qualities of the Supreme Lord. And Preetistad Vasatistale. And he has great attachment to living in the abode of Lord, Vrindavan. So these 9 symptoms, when they are seen in a person, these are reliable symptoms of bhava. In the absence of these reliable symptoms, any other symptoms of sattvika bhava which is found are not considered reliable. They are all material, they may be material emotions, or it could also be a faked emotion. Just to attract some popularity, the person may be showing some emotion to attract some cheap popularity, like that. So in this way, we have seen the symptoms of a person at the stage of bhava. Of course, I understand that these are elevated subject matters, so therefore we are not going much deep into this right now. But still, we need to know what is the prayojan, what is the goal that we are trying to achieve, how exalted is that goal. For that purpose, we need to understand. And in fact, these subject matters are within the Bhakti Shastri portion only. We are not talking of something extremely esoteric. We are not getting into the details of rasa, but we are discussing about the nature of that stage which is considered to be perfection by all the practicing Gaudiya Vaishnavas. So now coming to this next theme, which is two types of Bhava Bhakti. So Bhava Bhakti can arise from Raganuga Sadhana, or Bhava Bhakti can arise from Vaidhi Sadhana. So we all know that there are these two kinds of sadhana bhakti. One is Raganuga sadhana bhakti, another is Vaidhi sadhana bhakti. I am not going to get into the details of this. As I mentioned, we will discuss these subject matters in great detail in the sequel to the Vaidhi sadhana bhakti series. The next would be understanding Raganuga sadhana bhakti. Then the third sequel, the second sequel would be Bhava Bhakti, and the third sequel would be Prema Bhakti. So therefore, I am just rushing because we have to essentially complete this course. This course cannot continue indefinitely. So in this course I will not cover, but in that particular sequel to the other course, I will definitely cover all these things in detail as given in both Madhurya Kadambini and in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. But for now, we will try to see whatever little we can see. So, and of the two, the bhava which is developed through practice of Raganuga sadhana is said to be of higher quality than that bhava which develops through practice of Vaidhi sadhana bhakti. Because the bhava which has developed through practice of Raganuga sadhana bhakti has no consideration of awe and reverence. It's pure sweetness. But in the case of that bhava bhakti which has developed through practice of Vaidhi sadhana, there is a mood of awe and reverence towards the Supreme Lord, and the sweetness is compromised because of that mood of awe and reverence. So then the next theme that is discussed is that the stage of bhava is also called as rati. So rati is said to be, as we saw, prema suryamshu. So rati becomes rasa when it is nourished by the other samagri bhavas. So what we call as bhava is actually sthai bhava. And that sthai bhava, when it is nourished by the other samagri bhavas, vibhav, anubhav, satvika bhav and sanchari bhav, it becomes rasa. So for those of you who may not know what these samagri bhavas are, it has already been discussed in the Rediscovering Vaidhi Sadhana Bhakti course. So for those of you who need little elaborate discussion, for lack of time we cannot take it right now. You can refer to those classes. So this bhava, so therefore there are 5 types of rati or bhava, which is Shantarati, Dasyarati, Sakyarati, Vatsalyarati and Madhuryarati. So which subsequently becomes Shantarasa, Dasyarasa, Vatsalyarasa, Sakyarasa and Madhuryarasa, like that. So then the last theme that is discussed here by Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur is that the perfection of all the rasas is in Krishna, Akhila Rasamrita Murti. So he says that just as water is present in all the streams, rivers and ponds, but is water personified in the ocean. So in the same way, rasa is present in all the avatars, but it touches perfection. All the rasas touch its perfection in Krishna. Even in Lord Ram's pastime, there is Vatsalya Bhav, but there is not much description of Lord Ram's childhood pastime. Vatsalya Bhav is perfectly experienced by parents in the child's Balyavastha. But in Lord Ram's childhood pastimes are not many, at least it's not described. So So Vatsalya achieves its perfection in Vrindavan. And Mother Sita and Lord Ram, I am using the example of Lord Ram because uh, only in Naralila there is maximum possibility of experiencing rasa. I cannot take the examples of Lord Narasimha or Varahadev, so in which these rasas are experienced to even lesser extent, less number of rasa and lesser extent also. So Lord Ram comes closest. So therefore we are taking that episode as an example, that avatar as an example. In the case of Lord Ram, there is Madhurya Rasa with Mother Sita, but that is only in the mood of wedded love or Swakiya Rasa. But Parakiya Rasa or paramour love is considered to be more exalted in the spiritual sense, not in the material sense. That is, so therefore, Madhurya Rasa attains its perfection in Vrindavan. Sakya Rasa, Lord Ram hardly had, his friends were like Sugriva, Guha. I mean, if you see their friendly love towards Lord Ram, it is practically indistinguishable from Dasya Rasa actually. So much awe and reverence is there. But in the case of Krishna and Vrindavan, the Gopas say, Tumi kona bada loka, tumi ami sama. Saka Shuddha Sakye Kare Skande Arohan. Tumi kona bada loka, tumi ami sama. So they sit on Krishna's back and they say, Krishna, carry me there. Tumi kona bada loka. You think you are a big person? Tumi ami sama. We both are same. That kind of, that friendship is relishable. How can friendship be relishable if there is so much awe and reverence? So Sakyaras reaches its perfection in Vrindavan. Similarly, Dasyaras also attains its perfection in Vrindavan, like that. So therefore the Shastras say, Raso vai saha. Krishna does not possess rasa, but Krishna is rasa personified, like that. And this rasa exists in a budding stage at the stage of rati, and when nourished by the samagri bhavas, it completely achieves maturity at the stage of prema in the form of rasa, like that. So in this way we come to the end of this course, even though we have not reached the end of this book, but nevertheless we will end the course here. But tomorrow will be whatever questions have been asked in the portal, I will answer those questions before we end this course. But I promise to complete the incomplete portions of, we could have discussed bhava in little more detail. We have not discussed prema at all. But these two subject matters I promise to discuss in one of the future courses which will come quite soon. As soon as the rediscovering Vaidhi Sadhana Bhakti section gets over, then we will discuss then Raganuga, then Bhava and then Prema. So please stay tuned for the future courses if you are interested to learn more about these subject matters as explained by our acharyas. So thank you very much. I would like to express my gratitude from the bottom of my heart. It has been a very pleasurable experience having your association for so many days. So hopefully I'll get your association tomorrow also for the question and answers. Even though you might not have personally asked a question, but maybe there could be something that we could learn from the questions asked by others. So thank you very much for your patient listening. Meet you tomorrow for the last session of this course, which is question and answers. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur ki jai. Shri Madhurya Kadambini ki jai. Hare Krishna. Thank you very much.